And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Samantha-The-Boss. And Samantha-The-Boss writes, "Hey, John and Erin." Unfortunately, Erin's not here today. "I really loved Wandavision and Doctor Strange, so you can imagine how excited I am for Multiverse of Madness. Anyway, wondering if you saw that Elizabeth Olsen just did an interview where she says that the Multiverse of Madness is actually the scariest Marvel movie yet. What do you think about MCU movies embracing the horror genre more, and how scary do you think it can get? Thanks." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Samantha. And yeah, listen, obviously, a lot of people have been very excited about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. That excitement has only gone up considerably with Loki. I mean, whether you loved the Loki series or not, I think it's fair to say that generally speaking, even a lot of people who didn't really like Loki, you gotta say it kind of intensified and increased our anticipation for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. A lot of people looking forward to it. We already knew that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be appearing in it as Scarlet Witch. I mean, obviously Doctor Strange there was a report that we talked about coming out of the Hollywood Reporter yesterday that Tom Hiddleston as Loki was also going to be appearing in the movie. Marvel hasn't confirmed that yet, but it does come from the Hollywood Reporter. So that's all very interesting. Now, in the midst of all that, though, Elizabeth Olsen was just, she was doing some interviews because, of course, she just got nominated for her first Emmy as a Best Lead Actress in a limited series for WandaVision at the Emmys, which is amazing. Congratulations to her. But in the midst of that, somebody asked her about some questions about, what's going on with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And this is specifically what she said. This comes to us from Screen Rant. The interviewer prodded Olsen for details on the upcoming MCU sequel, that's Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness, and she provided a potentially exciting tease that it will be the scariest Marvel movie. All right, saying the following: "It's a very scary movie. It's like old Sam Raimi," and of course Sam Raimi is doing the movie. "They're trying to create the scariest Marvel movie." That comes to us, of course, from Elizabeth Olsen via the good folks over at Screen Rant. Okay. There's a couple of things and a couple of asterisks you have to keep in mind when talking about this. Saying something is going to be the scariest MCU movie out there is saying, like, that dude Bobby is the most lethal mixed martial arts fighter in his kindergarten class. I mean, right? It's the scariest movie ever in the MCU. Now, look, the original Doctor Strange movie kind of, let me rephrase this. The original Doctor Strange movie had elements of, like, a few horror elements in it. It absolutely did. But I don't think anybody's going to say that it's a straight up horror movie. It's definitely not. There are certainly some moving and maybe even some frightening scenes in the MCU, but to come out and say that it's going to be the scariest MCU movie, well, that's not exactly a high bar, okay? When talking about how scary can you make something, that's not necessarily setting a very high bar. On top of that, it's an interesting comment because you remember Scott Derrickson, who directed the first Doctor Strange, he departed Doctor Strange 2 because, according to reports, he wanted to push the horror elements a little bit more than Kevin Feige wanted to. And so, I respect both of them. Scott Derrickson said, well, if I can't do the movie the way I really want to do it, then I don't feel comfortable being attached to it. And Kevin Feige's like, hey, I'm only going to allow movies to get made that I'm comfortable that it's within certain parameters. And so they parted ways, and that's fine. No harm, no foul. But it does leave me wondering, how scary can it actually be if the previous director actually left because they wouldn't let him make it a little bit scarier? So listen, I absolutely believe that Elizabeth Olsen is probably right. I think this will probably be the scariest MCU movie yet. But that's not really saying much. And of course, now listen, I can hear some people now saying like, oh, but the movie's going to be PG-13, so how can it be scary? Listen, a lot of the great horror movies can be PG-13. You don't need to drop F-bombs and show a lot of titties or have a lot of blood and gore to be scary. Honestly, blood and gore isn't scary. Blood and gore isn't scary. It's the other stuff that makes it scary. I mean, some of my all-time favorite horror movies are actually PG-13. Not my absolute favorite horror movies, but some of my favorite ones. So you can do that. But again, I believe it's Elizabeth Olsen when she says this will be the scariest Marvel movie yet. But I also don't think that means much, especially in the light that the last director left because they wouldn't let him make it all that scary. Anyway, guys, what do you think about this? I'm sure we're all looking forward to Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. I'm sure it will be the scariest movie in the MCU yet. I also don't think it's actually going to be that scary. Anyway, guys, what do you think about the comments? Jump on down into the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Okay, guys.